Well, we have again Mr. Matt Bell. So we welcome you, Matt.
Hi, how do you do? All right.
Now, you've literally only been on like a month ago, and I don't do that many chats anyway. So I'm not being lazy. It's just we're going to ask you anything, and this is going to be called Matt Bell Ask Me Anything.
Well, I'll well, I'll try and answer as best as I can. I don't know everything, so if I don't know something, I'll say.
Well, there's nothing wrong with if you don't know stuff, conjecture based on things you do know and hypotheses. And I think, well, I don't think I know. In this current climate, that's definitely being shunned away from us. Critical thinking and just asking questions. So there's nothing wrong with actually coming up with something as long as you say that's not matter of fact kind of thing. So
Absolutely. I kind of think of it like this. It's not facts and it's not truth necessarily. It's just information.
yeah,
So if you can take those kind of weights off and just look at it as information, and then people can just, if they resonate with that, then great. If it's not part of their reality, then great as well, because it's not about me trying to convince people how to believe or what to see or all that. It's just from my experience kind of thing. And really, I don't mind being questioned because truth doesn't mind being questioned, but lies do. So it's given me a bit of a challenge as well, which I kind of relish. So
I put up a quote recently. So I think it's Bruce Lee. It probably wasn't actually Bruce Lee, but it's probably Confucius or something. It was question an idiot and he will hate you. Question a wise
oh
man
yeah,
and he will respect, something like that. So it's probably quite
yeah, yeah.
famous. But I actually had a week in London in my I was slumming it in a penthouse apartment overlooking the Thames, and my
Oh
cousin.
you.
But we had some amazing conversations. And there were things that we didn't disagree with, but I noticed probably me actually that as you shed the ego slowly, it takes time. You then don't care if you're right or wrong, because there's no such thing as right and wrong.
Exactly.
As every single different person has their own slant on things or a truth, and so it's so important to actually listen to people's opinions, even if you think that they're completely wrong, because there's so many people that have been thought to have been wrong, have been persecuted, that have actually turned out to be completely right.
Yeah,
So,
the difference between kind of crazy and genius is about 2 years,
yeah,
when people realize that what someone said, ahead of time is actually true. So yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And
okay,
really, everyone's got reality is subjective. It's not objective. There's no independent kind of body that is separate from anything else and can come up with its own conclusions. We're all interconnected. So nothing is truly independent, but we've all got that subjective reality, and reality is created through the filter of our senses. In a way, it's through the sight, touch, taste, feeling, smells, and also thinking as well. So each person's reality will be different from another person's, and that's fine because we all share collective agreements as well. So we all agree that that's called a tree in the UK in English, and that will be a tree, and we know what that is. But some information people haven't come across yet, and so that it's not in their frame of reference, so that they don't know whether it's true or not. And it's also a bit different as well with things like belief is different from knowing, and knowing is different from understanding. So with belief, for example, belief is based on something you don't know to be true, because it's kind of you're putting faith in that particular thing. You don't believe you have parents, for example. You know you've got parents. So there's the difference between belief and knowing. But then knowing is not necessarily a full thing either, because you can know the sun comes up and goes down every day, but you don't know the processes. You don't understand necessarily the processes of how that nuclear fission works. So you can know something. Anyone can know something, but to understand it is on a deeper level as well.
yeah. You just answered one of my questions, so thank you.
All right. Okay.
The next one's what is telepathy? So,
Well,
oh no, I'm joking.
all right. Okay. Well,
But
I
actually,
can
what is
answer that one.
telepathy? Go on, we'll do that anyway.
Well, telepathy is basically when you match frequency with another conscious being. So, I mean, it could be a rock and it could inform you of something. It could be another person that could inform you of something, because everything is in the source field, or the ether, if you like, and we all share that energy connection because everything is energy. and that's the interconnection with everything else. So if you match kind of frequency with what, say, someone else is thinking, then you are becoming, or you are establishing a telepathic link. So that's telepathy. And usually with people that you spend more time with, they become more telepathic with each other, because they know how they each other operate, and they move into similar frequencies. So it's very real, yes, and it's lovely because you can read things from people without them kind of expressing it. You can just pick it up from their frequency, from their vibe, if you like.
Well, I know it's real, definitely. So that's something that's also another point in this, with what you just said about sort of what people think they know stuff, is actual tangible evidence, and we've been through that in the last video. So actually having something that's reasonably tangible in front of you is amazing, isn't it? That's kind of okay.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of this metaphysical stuff can get a little bit, people can get a little bit carried away with it.
yeah.
For
Because
example, ghost hunters, you know.
yeah, exactly. And you have to be careful of observation bias as well, because if you're looking for something, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're kind of like a wildlife cameraman, you're just observing, and you then by that you'll find new behavioral patterns in that animal or creature that you're looking at, because you're not placing your filter or your bias onto it. You're just observing in the neutral, and then that's when you get the most kind of raw data back. And speaking of telepathy, we are becoming more telepathic as a race here, because the actual frequency of the Earth is going up. So that's kind of unlocking and expanding our consciousnesses as well, which, as a result of that, you get people being psychic or clairvoyant or clairsentient or telepathic, etc. So
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Right, I forgot to put this on.
Oh, okay.
It's a work in progress. I'm going to flog them on Etsy. This is my tester.
That's yeah. I think you could be a bit more stylish with that. Maybe a
That's a bit
point
shit. I
at the
don't know.
top.
Everyone does that though. I'm trying to be a little bit different.
Oh, okay. Fair dues.
What I'm gonna do is like a mullet hat. So it'll come down behind the ears.
It looks like a hairstyle now.
Yeah,
Like a little
Lego,
party bit.
like a robot Lego.
Yeah, Lego man.
Anyway, right, let's crack on. We haven't got much time. Okay, what's static energy? Question number one.
Well, static energy, we get that from the sun. It's where you get build up of charge. So you can, if you're wearing slippers and you're kind of wearing a dressing gown that's synthetic material, you're getting building up a charge of ions, and that clicks. Have you ever had when you take your jumper off or something, and it's kind of going? Well, that's the static electricity that you've built up through friction, through rubbing, say, your slippers on the floor, on the carpet, and then that you build up that charge, because we're electromagnetic beings. So and actually it's a good point you talk about this. It's really important to ground and earth regularly, because we build up positive ion charges, and that can slow our blood down, that can slow the flow of energy through our bodies, and it can create blockages in things like chakras or in various parts of the body if you have too much positive ions. So if get out there every day if you can, and touch something that's growing out out of the ground, or you can take your shoes and socks off and walk in the grass if it's that's better for you, and then that releases those positive ions that you've built up during the day, and tops up your negative ions, which are really healthy for you, because the Earth is negative and outer space is positive. So that's why you've got plants reaching out, because of the charge, the negative charge trying to meet the positive charge. That's why. So yeah, static electricity is build up of charge.
That's from the sun, right?
Well,
What happens
yeah,
when you get downloads and kind of tingles and things, you just know it's going, well, no, it's going through me at night.
yeah, yeah.
What happens then?
It's also you've got your body is run through on energy, electromagnetic energy. The Chinese call it qi. The Indians call it prana. We call it life force. But that electricity and that energy is flowing through us all the time. So yeah.
A lot of people have said, including my own wife, that you don't have to go onto the ground. You can actually just imagined that you're grounding. Adrian Lee said that as well, I think it was. I can't remember now. Is that a thing? Because I found it a lot nicer to actually go on wet grass, especially wet grass.
It is, to a certain extent, we do create our reality.
Yeah,
To a certain extent, we can reduce the amount of charge through that mental process. But I always recommend that you physically ground, that
yeah.
you either touch a tree or a bush or a plant that's growing out of the ground, or you take your shoes and socks off, and then that will instantly take away all that positive ions and
Or
instantly top
stroking
you
a
up.
dog, going taking a dog for a walk and stroking it,
Yes,
apparently.
they're good ion
Yeah,
generators.
because they kind of high functioning anyway. I'm a bit in the winter, right? I hate going outside, generally, and I hate getting cold. I had an idea, right? And I can't really market this or patent it, but it's an idea. If I put salt in my bath as well, so obviously conductivity increases. If I lie in my bath, which I've literally just had, and undo the plug and stay laying in my bath, there will be a flow of water going to ground. It will go all the way through the pipes into the water system, which will be
Yes,
grounded because it goes through concrete. Will that ground me?
if you've got a
Understandable.
connection, if you're still in the water, and that water is an unbroken channel to the ground, then yes, it will.
Good.
But it's most likely that it's going through the pipes and it breaks up, so it won't. I do another thing where you can charge up the water with blessings and positive energies,
Yeah.
and because water is one of the fastest moving elements around the planet, you can then infuse each water drop really of or hydrogen and two oxygen to be charged with your positive intentions, and then that goes around the planet, and then that goes into everyone's cells. So you can charge up energy into water and then send it on its way. Matsumoto did those experiments with the freezing of the water through intention and stuff like that.
I'm going to
So
do that, recreate that actually.
yeah, so that's
It's
really a good way of sending positive affirmations and helping to transform the energies of the planet. So you can use the bath water in that sense. That's how I do it. But
What would happen if then you put a load of soap with loads of limonene and chemicals and
that
crap?
that really won't matter
No.
because
Oh, okay.
your intention has kind of infused with it, and by the processes of the earth, those sorts of things get stripped out in a way.
My mum was telling, so this is a bit going off topic. My mum was telling me about this guy. I think someone that she knows who's like, or someone that she knows. Um, and he literally turned like crappy with vinegar wine into really nice quality wine. I want to try and learn that.
Oh, I don't
Get the
know that one.
cheapest of cheap wine and turn it into Chateauneuf de Pape or something. Anyway, we'll crack on. Salmonella poisoning. What was that all about? Was it because they were bringing in dates for the? This is what I've got intuitively into the supermarkets and trying to get stuff.
Well, we know that they use various
Mm,
viruses, as they say, even though viruses don't technically exist. It's just bacteria. So every our bodies, for example, every mammal has coronavirus in them, and we use bacteria as a form of communication between cells, and we are a combination of all these different microorganisms. We're like a colony, but we just see ourselves as one solid person, sort of thing. But we've got loads of different kind of systems connecting throughout us, and we use these bacteria um, as part of us. If we took away all the bacteria and stuff, we'd probably be left with a small part of the shin that was actually human sort of cells, if you like, or human constituent. So we're colonies, we're a combination of all these different organisms. And so bacteria is prevalent, around the whole planet. And various species have different types of bacteria. So depending, you don't really put children with, say, chickens at a young age. If there's an issue with salmonella, for example, but the so-called overlords, they use these sort of things to steer people and raise prices and make profit and stuff like that. Most of the things like H1N1, bird flu, swine flu, they've all come about through things like the MAP, is it? Well, I think it's changed since then. the Ministry of Agriculture and stuff injecting these livestock and giving them, you know, a small dose of, say, with cows, you know, TB, just to see if they react to that. But then that will make the animal ill, and then they can say that as an excuse that, oh, they caught this, that, and the other. You never hear of fish catching bird flu. You never hear of, you know, fish coming down with coronavirus, because they're, you know, it's a different kind of system of bacteria and different kind of species as well. So it depends on. So salmonella basically is a form of bacteria, and it can be harmful, yes. But you know, being aware of it and being practical, if you're, say, handling eggs or chicken.
What was the point in the media campaign? Because I remember as a child that was huge. I mean, I'm even looking on Only Fools and Horses, it was put into the plot on that.
Well, they realised basically that they could reduce the amount in which they pay the farmers, and then they could up the profits on selling the eggs. So it's like trying to reduce the flow, so you create more demand, and then you put the prices up, and then you it's a business marketing tactic, basically.
Is that who runs that, for example, and who funds it, like the supermarket chains, that kind of thing?
Well, they're all owned by BlackRock. If you go, you know, they're all owned by kind of BlackRock, Vanguard, and they all sort of own each other, these major corporations, and then that feeds down to companies like M&S and Sainsbury's, etc. And so they all follow those diktats from above, and it's just a way of controlling what people pay for something, and controlling the stock and the supplies coming from the producers.
So that another version of that would have been the avian flu thing, where there were no eggs and stuff. And it was, a lot of that was actually just the people that produced the eggs, apparently, that said no, sorry.
Well, they have been messing around with the bird feed. A lot of the chicken farmers, for example, went onto a certain type of feed, and then the chickens wouldn't eat it because it'd been tampered with and stuff like that. And some that had fed their chickens on it, those chickens became ill. So, you know, it's another way of controlling independent, say, farms or producers, and then bringing them under control. So yeah.
Okay, cool. That's pretty much answered that for me. I always wondered about that. It's like it came in around the best before dates and stuff like that, I think. And I thought it was things like that are ways, and also like kind of, all milk's really bad for you. We're just going to skim off everything and feed you water, and you're going to pay probably more than you paid before.
Well, milk's an interesting one, because before all this lactose intolerance stuff came about, after the pharmaceutical industry helped shut down the agricultural industry, they basically started breeding cows without the A1 and A2 protein, which is the healthy stuff. And also cattle were fed on hemp. So because we've got an endocannabinoid system, these were all beneficial until, you know, they started changing and tampering with the animals and stuff in their feed, etc., and then breeding out things like the A1 and 2 protein. So effectively, you know, now milk is not as healthy as it used to be.
Okay, cool. Right, let's move on to flat Earth. If there's you love hollow Earth, okay? So if there's a flat Earth, how do you get a hollow Earth? And then if there is a flat Earth and a hollow, maybe just a flat Earth, how can we see? Is it a disk? All the sun, for example, Saturn and all that, or are they actual three-dimensional?
Okay.
Or is it subjective to each person's belief?
It is subjective.
Just said we co-create reality together.
Yeah, it's subjective to each person's belief. So what you believe, you'll see. You know that the saying seeing is believing. Yeah. It's actually the other way around. That was swapped even. It's believing is seeing. So whatever, you know, one person will say believe in God, another person will believe in Allah, and they'll see the same thing, but they'll frame that as, you know, an act of their God, sort of thing. So you filter it through what you believe. So flat Earth. If you believe in flat Earth, then you'll perceive your reality through that lens. If you believe in hollow Earth or globe Earth, you know, you'll perceive reality through that lens. I'm lucky enough, I've been on a craft and I've seen seen the Earth from outer space, and it's round. That was what was presented to my reality, and that's, you know, all the other planets are round, bubbles around. Nature creates rings in water, so the physics kind of makes things round, and that's because there's equal force of gravity, or shall we say information flow. And because force is compressed, it's perpendicular to the force, you have spheroid objects. So so the Earth is actually is round. It's like an oblique spheroid, slightly squished, bit lumpy on the a bit flat on the Pacific side and a bit lumpy on the other side. And it is, because everything's a toroidal field, it has got a hole in the top and a hole in the bottom. Like us, we are a toroidal field. We've got holes in the top of us, and we've got holes in the bottom. And it's an information exchange through in between, which is our digestive system, etc. So everything's got a toroidal field, and you know, our brain is shaped by the field, magnetic field, even, and so is an apple, for example. And if you see, what's that? Yeah, and the Earth has a magnetic field, you know, the magnetosphere, which protects us as well. And that's the containment field, the electromagnetic containment field, which everyone calls the firmament. And because they see Earth as flat, they'll see it as a dome sort of thing. They'll see it kind of like a, you know, just a dome, because they're seeing flat Earth. But if you were to see Earth as a ball, this is the firmament going all the way around like a bubble. Yeah. So that's what protects us and creates the atmosphere on our planet, and you know, keeps the oxygen in and stuff like that. If people research a thing called Birkeland currents, that's showing the electromagnetic field of the Earth, and you see it lit up plasma, and that's called the northern lights or the southern lights or the aurora, and that shows the electromagnetic field. That's why Elon's having a bit of trouble getting his rockets through the firmament, if you like, because it's got an electromagnetic field, a tight field of electromagnetism that acts like a wall of water, if you like, or a barrier. If you were to jump off a diving board and land in a belly flop on water, it's like concrete. So it's a similar principle. Through that momentum, these rockets are just bouncing off or blowing up when they hit the firmament. But if Star Family have got a field, an immersion field around their craft, and basically they can just drift through the firmament, because they're not, it's a different system that creates a field that's devoid of the physics around the craft. So but the trouble is, the moon is maintaining part of that frequency, that containment field, and then outside of that containment field is the Van Allen belts, which is highly radioactive, and you can't get humans past that in a rocket without them dying. You can only get them past that through a craft that has its own toroidal plasma energy containment field, and you'll be safe inside that. You can even fly through volcanoes with that technology, or through the sun, and it wouldn't affect the craft. So yeah, so the Earth is round, from my perspective, because I've seen it I've been lucky enough to see it from orbit. And there are things as well that's well established. There's the guy in Greece who made a chap walk 800 miles to measure the shadows on sticks. There's examples of deep wells, water wells, having different angled shadows because they're at different parts of the different locations. There's things like experiments where someone's been filming a helicopter taking off from the ground, or hovering off the ground, and they're viewing it across water. I can't remember how much the distance was. And then as soon as the helicopter decided to land, it kind of went behind the water, and they confirmed on the other side that they were just landing. So that is the curvature of the Earth. You've also got people who are doing experiments where they're cutting holes in like panels, and then they're doing several panels like that and lining up the holes. And then they're trying to shine a light through it, because if that was flat, you'd shine the light straight through. But then in the experiment, he says, oh, you have to lift up your torch a bit. And then that proves that it was a curved surface. You've also got things like VOR signals that pilots use, and those only come into visibility over the horizon when they pop up over the horizon, and those they use that for fly by wire, for tracker
I've
planes.
heard something recently that a lot of pilots kind of they say all they do is go up, get to altitude, pretty much stay on the same course, then they go down. And a lot of pilots believe in flat Earth.
Well,
Um,
it doesn't help that the aviation maps that they use are designed like a disc as well. So, but the Earth is round. Sorry to break it to you,
I don't
and
care.
basically,
I think it's
this,
square personally, but
well, some people have said tear shape, plum shape.
it's square.
You know,
Everyone knows it's square. Yeah.
but it's just one of those things. If you believe something, you'll perceive it that way.
Yeah.
But if you look at the physics, you can explain how something has a shape or a form. And
Personally, I don't think it's anything because we're all expression of energy.
well,
So
it's not really. I mean,
I
it's
don't
just
live
one of
in that.
the ways to kind of make us separate from our our planet in a way, like soles on shoes are as well. There's many different ways that they're doing this. And if you notice that they're pushing the flat Earth theory very heavily at the moment
Yeah.
because it's part of the disconnection. They want people to be disconnected
Yeah.
from Earth and source,
It's all
basically.
EastEnders. It's all to get you sort of distracted. But actually, I live in a flight path, so I'll go into the next bit at the moment. Actually, um, I live in a flight path, and I pay attention because I do the school run every day to the planes and stuff. And you can see what some of them, especially the high ones, you can see it go like that, and it goes around.
Yeah,
It literally you can see it then.
yeah,
That leads me on to the next bit. Chemtrails, are they actually a thing? Um,
yes,
because I just can't see how passenger planes, one day they're there, next day they're not. Passenger planes are somehow doing this, and they're picking and choosing the days. Is it in the fuel? Is it in the plane? And who's controlling it on the actual plane? But I can see things, the clouds that are created from the plane could be exhaust jets. It could be something actually putting in to the exhaust that then stretch out over a week or two, or maybe a few days. So that there is. I'm driving Anya mad with this because I go look at that, look at. But I like to sort of
well, it's
look at
several
it
it's several
neutrally. I don't get carried away. Look at it neutrally and assess the
several things at
evidence.
once. But first of all, we've been manipulating the planet's climate since 1830s. So things like cloud seeding, things like changing course of hurricanes, etc. Um, so but about 30% of the trails that you see going across the sky are actual chemtrails, and they're hydrocarbons and various other things like aluminium and barium and stuff like that in the atmosphere. And that's why you get some kind of dust on car windows, etc., because the atmosphere is being seeded and manipulated. It has natural weather systems, the Earth, but then those are then manipulated to suit various different countries or various different agendas. And so that's why you've got things like certain sunny days, they'll do lots of seeding the clouds so it covers up, because effectively what they're trying to do is reduce the amount of light that we absorb. The sun has gone a bit more whiter in color as she's raised her frequency, and that's helping our pineal glands open up because that helps us regulate our circadian rhythms. So they want to suppress that, but the trouble is, Star Family keeps coming along and neutralizing most of it. So even though they're doing a lot of chemtrails, they're being neutralized pretty much straight afterwards. And so there's that side of it, the manipulation side of it. But also with certain stratospheric conditions, you get ice crystals at certain stratospheric levels, and you get certain inverse magnetic layers, if you like, and those help to create what looks like chemtrails, but they're actually contrails. So yeah, it's a mixture of both. You've got the this kind of nasty cabal people who, through their, because they own all the airlines, have got a program of doing chemtrails on commercial flights and military and civilian smaller flights, and that's to manipulate the weather, but also to stop our pineal glands opening up and us absorbing more sunlight and awakening up to all this kind of nefarious stuff. But you've also got various stratospheric or natural phenomenon which creates what can look like a contrail, but a chemtrail, but it's actually a contrail. It's just ice crystals suspended in that layer effectively as well. So yeah, but it's not easy to tell. You can't necessarily tell from looking from the ground, whether it's a natural kind of ice crystal phenomenon, or whether it's an actual chemtrail phenomenon, that's man-made.
You can some of them you can tell. Some days are worse than others.
Yeah.
But I'm not a metaphysicist. Is it metaphysicist? Whatever. And I don't understand all
Meteorologists.
That's the one, meteorologist. I don't understand all the. There's lots of crazy stuff going on with all the different levels. It's a bit like you jump into a lake, and there's just a sudden cold bit, where you got can't remember what it's called now, and yes, so. And that's you get two different types of levels, and it's a bit like that, isn't it? But
yeah, exactly.
So we'll move on. So actually, how do they physically put it in to the air? Is there like because I've seen Thailand were doing a program. They started a program. They actually showed the pictures of the planes with all the tanks.
Yeah, they've got little nozzles on the
So
end
is
of the
it in
wing.
the fuel or is it in a separate compartment in a
Separate compartment.
747?
Yeah, separate compartment.
And does the pilot actually press a button?
Sometimes, yeah.
And if they're going over the Atlantic, so when they get to Cornwall, right, from Gatwick, does that stop? Does it know where it is? Or I don't know. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot.
Yeah, they're on a plan effectively. So some of the pilots won't know what they're doing. They'll be just flicking a switch, thinking that I have to do this for, I don't know, for navigation purposes. But they'll be ignorant of that. And some will be knowingly doing that seeding of the clouds and doing that nefarious stuff, and that comes out through little nozzles under the wing or at the back of the wing, the back edge. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So Anya, it is a thing. I'm not making it up. Kind of. Okay, cool. That's good.
But remember, only about 30% is contrail. The rest is natural phenomena created by the stratosphere.
That's pretty much the hypothesis I came up with through several years of observation and pissing off my wife. When we're going on a nice walk down to the village.
Well, do you know what? You can both agree to be right.
So we're not. I'm not agreeing to be anything. Actually, I don't really care.
Oh, okay.
I've said I don't think this. I couldn't care less what goes on.
We're still alive.
So-called physical reality.
There's still butterflies. There's still frogs. There's still vulnerable wildlife that's going on. So still flowers.
Still a manifestation of other things. If we really believe in that. Okay, let's move on. Crop circles.
Yeah. What about them?
What are they? And they've been known to be faked. So how do they? I've always sort of had an intuitive thought that it's like kind of as I've said, we don't live in an actual physical reality. It's an expression. It's like possibly a message of some sort, or a language.
Well, the Star family use them as timestamps. So if you're going to do time travel and you want to return back to that point in time, that exact point in time, crops are a really good way of doing that because obviously they keep growing, and that you get them harvested and things like that. So they do put designs in the crops, and they are messages for us, but they're also messages for Star family as well. So they're like kind of like if you want to go to Alpha Centauri, go this way, and they'll kind of it's a kind of message, a bit like the Nazca lines in Peru. Those are from Star family, and they're directional to show people how to go through the sun and what kind of route to take to get to, say, Alpha Centauri. There's hummingbirds, there's also monkeys, there's all sorts of different kind of glyphs, if you like. And in some ways, crop circles are the same thing. they're a timestamp for time traveling star family who want to come back to that same point in time, because they can dissolve out of that place and then through frequency appear in another location in time. And it's a bit complicated as well, but they're also directional kind of signs and messages for other star family, and they're also messages to kind of prompt us to think about things. But it's well known that the British government, there was a chap doing crop circles and on his website, and he got very popular, and so much so that the British establishment wanted him to do something, video, and if one was come, and film that if it came in. He then agreed to do that, and then they got a bunch of people with planks to recreate crop circle, just to create that ambiguity. So now you've got all the planks, all the plankers, I call them, who are going around making all these crop circles, these fake ones, so as to establish a bit of kind of like ambiguity. But they're actual, real, genuine phenomenon, and they've been caught on film. These star family creating them, and they're kind of time markers, really, if you like. And
So
what there's a difference.
Sorry, do you get any crop circles like kind of services and McDonald's and stuff like that, or their
No,
version
not
of it?
really. No. You get crop circles in ice. You get crop circles in crops. You get various different ones. My friend actually was in a field, and they did a portrait of his face, and it's one of these rare. It's not actually a circle. It's like a kind of gridded picture. Cerebro message, or I can't remember the. It was right in front of a radar dish, basically, giving them a message that they're here, and their DNA's slightly different and stuff. So they're a real, genuine phenomenon. And the way you can tell the difference between a fake crop circle and a real crop circle is the fake crop circles with the plankers. They snap the stem, basically, of the crop, whereas star family, they kind of bend the stem. They fuse it, not fuse it. They bend it and so it's still growing, but it's growing in a different direction. So it's through plasma fusion. So it's a similar thing to the early Philadelphia experiment, where they were experimenting with time travel, and one of the experiments went wrong, where they blended Navy sailors midway through the hull, because everything became a non-physical state at that point. So you had people literally halfway through the bulkhead. One half of them was in the ship, and one half of them was stuck outside of the ship. And that's a similar process. They're just changing the flow and the fusion of the crop, so it just bends. And so those are the real ones, and it doesn't do any damage to the crops when the star family do it. So, yeah.
You would hope that, yeah, if they were that advanced. That's quite cool. Going on to that, what about sort of talk about multi-dimensional stuff? That's kind of what I like and think of mostly. Multi-dimensional beings, such as Sasquatches, Yeti, Bigfoot. What the hell's that? How do they get here? And how do they go back? Because they're supposed to be from the inner Earth or something like that, which
Well,
isn't
all life
visible.
was seeded on this planet, and that's varies. Some and all. There's no such thing as time, because time is all playing out all at once. So it's a difficult concept. It's not linear as we view it on Earth. So we've got various times all collectively running together. So the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot or the Yeti, they're a native hominid of Earth. They were one of the first established life forms on Earth. They were brought here as well, and they've remained wild at their kind of core wild DNA level. Humans were brought here from from the Lyra system, the Vega star system, and we're all seeded here. But if you like, every being is multidimensional. I mean, for example, you can go from one group of friends to another group of friends, and there'll be a different vibe in different subject matter and different, culture. And you can say, imagine what it will be like in the future, or what it will be like in the past. So time and space is non-existent really. If you know about the non-locality principle in physics and Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in physics, that explains that you can't really say time is a thing. It's just duration, and we notice that change in energy and call it something like a birth or death, or a change. These beings are still here on the planet. The Earth is like an island. It's visited by many different species, and especially seeing as we're next to the sun, which is a big white hole, which is like a kind of junction to the universe for star family, like on the superhighway. So a lot of star family come here. Some stay as residents, and forget that they were ever seeded here, like us. And some stay here and know that they're star family, and then get to go back on their craft again because it's a mission that they're doing, or something that they're just establishing, researching. Earth is visited by many species, and we have many star families in various different ecosystems on the planet right now. And you wouldn't know it, but you're walking amongst star family. There's human-looking beings who are space humans, and they've never been born on Earth. You've got beings that are from the Pleiades or the Orion, or all sorts. And then you've got beings who are using the human Lyran vessel to, like an avatar, to inhabit with their consciousnesses. But essentially, all of us are multidimensional. We're not, because dimensions don't really exist and densities don't exist. It's just a way of explaining different kind of concepts for us to kind of comprehend, sort of thing.
Oh, cool.
That helps.
Yeah, right. That's great. Really good. I kind of got that. It's a difficult one to take on board, that really, because I mean, we all do still have this so-called three-dimensional world or reality.
Well, you'll be finding that there'll be a lot more species being filmed and coming out now and being shown. A lot more stuff about Bigfoot's coming out. They're actual beings. They're very wise. They're called the chartreuse as well, and they are very natural beings. But you've got variants. You've even got vampires. You've got zombies on the planet. You've got Lacratos, which is a winged. There's 165 of those. A winged creature that was. It's a hybrid from Jupiter that's got a cloaking field. You can't see them.
How big are they?
They're pretty big. They're about as big as a thunderbird. I don't know if you know about the thunderbird. There's a photograph of one taken in the West in America.
Is it like a huge, great big bird of prey to some extent?
Yeah,
I've seen one of them.
They're kind of like
I've actually seen one.
They've got a sort of an owl face.
Yeah.
And they've got claws that are about as big as your, massive things. And
yeah,
they're kind of guardians or drones, if you like, for the Christos, which are beings from Jupiter where all that Christ and angelic stuff culture came from.
Yeah, because I walked out. I told you about that.
No,
I walked out the garden. I think it was 2020, and this thing, like, it wasn't that. It's just above my house, not very far. But it was a long. The New Forest is literally just not that far away, and this thing was flying speed of a 40, 50 mile an hour in the air, but twisting and turning at the same time. I thought that's a bird of prey. It looked like it was in stoop, but going horizontal. And intuitively, I knew it wasn't. Intuitively, I knew it was a some kind of multi-dimensional being or something like that. And so it's just no noise at all. Just went no noise.
I'm not surprised by that.
About the size of a helicopter. And I ran all the way up the stairs because we've got three stories in our house. And Anya and William, they were both there, and it's just flown over the house. It was going off in the distance, quite a way. And William, quite interestingly, said, "Is that a man in a bird suit?" And because it looked like a huge bird. So that what you've just described sounds exactly that, to be fair. And I just had this feeling it was going close to Earth, so it wouldn't be picked up by radar. Is that right? Do
Oh,
you think?
it could be, yeah.
Yeah,
And especially if it was doing a spiraling pattern as well.
yeah,
But you've got other winged species as well, other, shall we say, regressive species or ET species that have wings that are just as much as like a vampire would or an angel would, for example. So these things are based on actual physical beings. These myths and legends, and they're still around, but they're not. Some of them are not filmed. A lot of the software on the cameras that we have today has this filtering mechanism, which basically can filter out any stuff that they don't want the public to see as well. So there is that as well.
okay. We need to crack on with that. I think I'll to find get some equipment with this leads into my next question actually. Equipment to see some of these crafts. I'd love to do that.
Infrared, basically, if you can
Yeah,
get something in the infrared scale or night vision
yeah.
on your
Is there anything else that can do it though? Because you mentioned perspex or something before.
well, I'm interested to get those kind of 3D goggles that you get, those
Yeah,
the red and
yeah,
blue. Some chap took the filters, the lenses out, and put
yeah.
them together, taped them together, and then he put that over his camera phone. And because the camera's always trying to find the light or trying to find an object, it picked up all these crafts that
Yeah.
were in just all around us all the time, but are cloaked that we can't see. So yes, and I'd like to try that experiment out to
Yeah,
see if that's
I'd like to work alongside you on that if that's possible. I could
yeah,
find it if you
absolutely.
want.
Yeah,
And I looked at the sun the other day. I was just watching the sunset as it was going down, which apparently is quite powerful, isn't it? Anyway, I think it's a
yeah,
few years ago actually. And I think as you look at it, I don't know how it works, but it's as if your eyesight goes infrared when the sun's really going down. This great big flipping thing. I must have been the size of a football pitch. It was like kind of going changing direction. And I thought, bloody hell. I mean, it was miles away, probably in the Atlantic or something, or over Ireland. And yeah, it's amazing seeing that. I was like, okay, that's cool.
yeah. The
Um,
first hour of sunlight and the first last hour of sunlight are the most powerful times psychically as well.
right.
That's when you've got a stronger connection to source or to star family or to various astral beings, shall we say. And also it's really good for improving your eyesight. I think it's called the HWR sun gazing technique, where, so the example, the reason why that came about was because in the Korean War, the American soldiers were prisoners of war, and one of the tortures was to stare at the sun all day long, kind of thing. But they worked out that if they stared at the sun just in the morning and in the evening, you get that infrared light spectrum, and they gave their glasses back to the prisoners, to their prison guards, because their eyesight improves through that infrared light. And it's just, you can do sun gazing through the HWR technique, but that's only opening your eyes for a couple of seconds, and then the next day a couple of seconds more, and eventually you build up that ability to see the sun, but only in the first hour and in the last hour, because as the sun goes up to midday, it goes into the ultraviolet spectrum, and that's harmful. And also, staring at the sun, it will burn, into your retina and stuff like that. So there is a technique for improving your eyes that way. But also, when you close your eyelids, you've got that red glow. That's a form of infrared light, which is healing for your eyes as well. So you can look at the sun, but with your eyelids closed, and that will help heal your eyes. If you've got, say, things like cataracts or various eye issues.
That's cool. I need to spend more time in the sun. You said infrared, and actually, we've all got animals that we've all had animals at some point where they've suddenly gone
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. And I've just got a new dog. It's a rescue dog. I've just shut him up because he's barking, and he's like a healing dog. And he came to us. He was just barking and growling at me and the kids mainly. Absolutely petrified of everything. And I know they
Oh,
do. Over 3 days they learn to trust you. But I think me and Anya definitely absorbed a lot of his anxiety because he just like that. He's a completely different dog. It's like he's the perfect dog in my opinion.
oh, good.
But everyone says that about their dogs.
Oh yeah, you're just
But
biased.
I left him on his own probably first or second week for a few hours while I was working and put the CCTV in there. And it's quite funny because he's jumping up on the sofa, looking at himself, going, "Yeah, I look good. Yeah, yeah." So it shows a little bit of self-awareness, but he's like
Yeah,
really, really I don't want that. He's really intelligent, switched on spiritually and everything. But I remember showing a video of that on my group, and Annie, I can't remember a second name. Annie said, "God, look at those orbs." I was like, "Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that." And I thought it was just dust, and I didn't really pay much attention to it. And I was like, "That's not fleas, it's not flies, and it's not dust because it's moving." Every time I video him, even when I'm there, they're coming dying all over the place.
oh, that's
Depends,
good.
and yeah, it depends on what mood he's in. They're all over the shop, every video.
Yeah,
And if he's chilled, they'll be kind of like that, kind of. But it just you remember that craft that I photoed.
yeah,
It's like that, but then they stop. You can see the little round ball, and then it kind of goes off in a different direction.
yeah.
Uh,
It's a form of
so
consciousness.
yeah,
Yeah, these
what
orbs.
are orbs and what are their classifications? Because they come in different colors. Obviously, you can't see that in this video.
Well, if it's not the camera abstraction, so if it's not the light being bounced back off particles that form spheres, then it will be elementals. So you've got various different kind of elementals. You've got earth elementals, natural sprites, if you like. Um, these are all forms of conscious beings. They don't necessarily have a physical body, but they do generate a field around them. And then you've got other elementals that are not sort of say earth spirits or earth elementals. They are star family, various different consciousnesses. You've even got like ancestors from that have passed away, and they're in a slightly different realm vibrationally. But because we are multidimensional beings, we can pick up on that, and so can animals. And in fact, actually, cats and dogs have got a kind of slightly different range and perception than humans, and are able to pick up these things more easily because they're not distracted with all the human kind of stuff. And so cats are very good at spotting the Vlash, and dogs are very good at spotting the Matri, which are regressive species. So they can, show you if something's in a room, or an entity or a ghost or whatever, or they can show you if there's a potential threat as well. So they're good to have as kind of alarm bells, or as extra kind of sensory warning systems and stuff like that.
Which is
So
probably why witches like them and Egyptians and stuff.
yeah,
Why?
and yeah, well, if you know about the cat beings, the Irma, they're awesome. They're brilliant. They're epic. Those guys, 9 foot tall cat beings from planet Avion, who are in orbit in a craft at the moment. It's Avion 1. It's the King Ra's actual flagship craft. So they're here to look out for humanity as well, because they come from the Vega system, like the Lyrians, like us. They come from the same star system, and they feel quite protective against with humanity. So yeah, so we've got various
They
various.
must have whole store cupboards full of like things of wool, yeah, and stuff like that.
No, not at all. They're more like plasma weapons and
Oh right, okay, right.
blinged up armor. They're emotional beings, cat beings. They're like humans in a way, and they're incredibly intelligent. But they've got very high ethics and morals,
Mm.
and they live by those kind of principles, which is right. And but they're cats. They like to show off. They like to wear the capes, wear the armor, and have the big massive
Like Red
plasma
Dwarf,
weapon.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally.
I love that guy. It's like, ow.
Yeah,
Um,
that's perfect. That's a really good analogy, actually. Yeah,
yeah,
he's brilliant. Yeah, so that they're lovely. They're great.
cool. Okay, brilliant. Dwayne Dibley, isn't it? Or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's
He
it. Yeah,
became a geek. He's like, oh my God. Anyway,
I actually met him once.
have you? Oh
Yeah,
wow, must be brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
cool.
great.
Yeah, they're getting on a bit now.
Yeah.
Okay, right, let's move on. We're gonna be all day. Okay, you said you've been to space. You're a lucky one. Um, do you know other people that are going out to space and have humans? Has NASA actually got to space or Russia, and have they actually landed on the moon? It's another big.
So when
There is a
if I'm on a craft, there are space humans who have never been on Earth, but they're like us. You know, they're the same Lyrian template. Um, and you do get to meet some on the craft that you wouldn't see on Earth. So it's kind of like a meetup, but only in certain kind of times and locations on, say, a craft. You do get you've got at the moment you've got humans going into low Earth orbit, so that's all the International Space Station kind of footage stuff. If it's not the one filmed in a tank with a backdrop, a green screen backdrop.
Lots of
And
cables.
yeah, you've got humans in low Earth orbit. You've got the secret space program, such as Solar Warden and various others, where they have immersion technology. They have those fields around the craft, and they can go through the Van Allen belt. So they have done, say, the German um, space program has colonized lots of planets. They have been on the moon, and they have been on Mars, and they've currently got a base there. There's several bases on Mars, and there's several bases on the moon. So we have been out in space. We can go out in space, only with that technology of immersion fields to protect us from the radiation of the Van Allen belt that the moon is helping to generate. And the moon is in like a quantum lock. So that's why it doesn't spin. Also, if it did spin, you'd see the great big smashed up bit at the back, and you'd probably currently there's a ship called the Viera, which is the Galactic Federation kind of advanced command base, which is like an arrow-shaped craft hiding behind the moon. And they're sending all their sort of directions and dictates down to Antarctica, to the base in Antarctica. And then that goes on to places like Geneva and Australia and UK. And so all the orders are really coming from Antarctica via the Viera behind the moon. And that's kind of a bit nefarious because they're now looking into the fact that there's no leadership at the top. There's no accountability, and that's a bit suspect. And also the Federation's going through an audit currently at the moment. We've got a faction of the higher Federation coming in to audit all star families at the moment. So they are asking to come on board and inspect craft, only over 1 kilometre long. But it's a bit nefarious. You wouldn't want someone coming in and inspecting your home, trying to get you to conform to their rules all the time.
Especially if you do have a high code of ethics ingrained in you and you're very peaceful. I'm not sure that's the best of it. But you're saying about you don't answer to anyone. It sounds like any company, like Pfizer or British government, the banking system. Isn't that strange? It's like
it's more of the same, pretty much.
It is, it's the same expression and energy.
Yeah. But you've got the people like the Pleiadians, Queen Eleanor and Princess Marie Suaru. They reject the Etorthan. These are called like big nose greys, and a couple of other star races are escorting the Etorthans to do this audit of the Federation. So that's like an inspection of all star family in this area and what they're doing, sort of thing. But you've got the Pleiadians, and you've also got the Urma, which are the cat beings, saying, no, you're not coming on to our ship. You're not inspecting us. We find you very highly suspect. You're not accountable. Whenever you do an audit here, there's like lots of death and destruction on Earth. You're actually suppressing humanity. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to the Federation, nefarious part, are trying to uphold the Prime Directive, but they're also breaking that so that they can break it and manipulate it to their advantage. And if you look at the Earth's history, we've always been interfered with by star family. Look at the Anunnaki in Mesopotamia. Look at in Peru, there's lots of artifacts, and Mexico coming out to do with the Greys, enslaving humanity and doing sacrifices and things like that. So all these artifacts are coming out showing that we've been messed about with by regressive star races. I wouldn't call them family per se. So all that truth is coming out as well now.
Well, they might be family. They're just like the pedo uncle or something like that. or the drunken drunken half stepfather that beats you up every few weeks. Okay, right. So Black Death. This leads me on to dodgy goings on by. There's the whole death thing, with the scythe and that. I've heard stories that the Black Death or whatever that was introduced by either multi-dimensional beings like reptilians that could
Yeah,
had physical form back then because the energy was so shit basically. Or that
it was a
they
form of
always used to turn up before an outbreak kind of thing. Is that true or?
yeah. The Federation has been creating earthquakes, has been creating all sorts of trouble on Earth
Mm.
since we've been here, pretty much. And they part of that is introducing kind of bioweapons or bacteria that is harmful. So that was to do with the things like the plague, stuff like that. But people, there's a thing called thieves oil that was developed, where the king noticed that people were going around robbing dead bodies, not getting ill, and eventually they collared these people and said, "Well, what is it you're doing? Otherwise, we'll put you to death." And then they said, we use thieves oil, which is an antibacterial kind of oil, effectively, that they were using. So there are ways to protect yourself from harmful bacteria and stuff like that. Using herbs, or, things like clove, rosemary, oregano, all sorts of different natural products can create, if you put it in a carrier oil, can create like a barrier for against any kind of harmful bacteria and stuff like that.
Okay, because it was with the Black Death in particular that was introduced, was it? What's the point in that? I don't get it.
Well, that was like
Reduce
trying to reduce
population.
the population,
Yeah,
basically, and so that they could do a reset, which
it
is pretty
worked.
much what they're doing with the jabby jabby.
Yeah.
So, nothing changes pretty
No.
much.
And that level of vibrational frequency can't create, can it?
No, no,
Or use humor or anything like that. That's why they always go back to something that's worked in the past.
yeah,
I mean, they went straight into monkeypox. I mean, how thick could they be? What I find is brilliant is you can use like Voltaire, you can use satire, you can use memes, and they don't get it, do they? So it's
no,
quite
not at all.
so
Their
that's kind of a weapon
arrogance,
against it all, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, their arrogance cuts them off from
Yeah,
from
yeah, and that's
forcing away.
ego living, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
that's at its worst.
yeah,
So if let's say Megatron, Jesus, Buddha, and all that, they're still physical beings to some
they
sense.
are.
Where do they
Yeah.
live? Do they still go to the toilet? Do they
Yes.
still have to wait for the bus stop to go to?
No, no. Well, if you talk about, say, Jesus, I think he's currently on Jupiter. If you talk about his brother, he's currently somewhere in Eastern Europe. And if you know about reincarnation, but also if you know about star family technology to regenerate life, med beds,
Yeah.
our natural age as humans is 2,000 years, but because we're on such a toxic planet, it's reduced now to about 80 years. So fortunately, we're restoring those energy waves and we're starting to remove those harmful systems, and then our age will go up again. But when medbeds come out, we'll be able to age regress as well. So knowing that technology, they had that back when Jesus was crucified, and the two star family beings, two Callistos, came down, picked him up, and he wasn't quite dead, but because he had two hearts, he has two hearts, I should say, a bit like Doctor Who. Yeah, so they help regenerate him and
Or
keep
Phil
him alive.
Collins.
Phil Collins.
Two hearts living. Anyway, sorry. I've had a party week. I'm still in party mode. I've been to London, Sussex, and retreats and all sorts of things.
I
So
don't know if Phil Collins has got two hearts, but
it
yeah.
definitely hasn't. No, he wrote a song about it, but yeah, let's talk about two people, obviously. Okay, cool. That's great. Okay, next. Almost finished, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Dark matter. What is it? Scientists can't seem to work out what it is because they're just
Doesn't exist.
lost. Yeah,
Nonsense.
yeah.
It's just a way to explain something. basically it doesn't exist, and they're finding that out, because if it did exist, you wouldn't find, say, the James Webb Telescope finding galaxies that were well established before the Big Bang, and things like that. So what people don't understand is the Big Bang's still going on. It's in each one of us when we're born is the Big Bang. That's why it's a multiverse. And physicality has always been here. Trouble is with humans is they create the idea that something has to have a beginning and something has to have an end. But and they've invented time. So with that, it's the method of always going, well, what became before that? What came before that? What came, so. All right, okay. So physicality has always been there. It's just that we became aware of it when we became sentient and became aware of an invention or a concept called time. And then, of course, we say, well, it has to start somewhere, but actually it's been eternal, and time doesn't exist.
It's that whole toroidal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes back to constantly.
Exactly.
And that whole can't remember what it's called now. When you take split two atoms apart, and they've
quantum. Yeah. It's basically that's been proven. If you split them apart and flip one atom, it flips on the other one instantaneously, because everything is interlinked. That's the non-locality principle in physics, if you want to look that up. So and everything is interconnected. And the double slit experiment as well proves that as well.
Yeah. But when it's observed, it changes though, doesn't it? From a waveform.
That's right. You collapse the waveform into a particle effectively, and by your observation. But it can be a wave or a particle, and it's dependent on the observer. But also the observer changes by seeing the observation as well. So we change by so everything is all mind and consciousness, if you want to look at it. And actually we're not just separate beings. There's no distance between me and you, even though we're talking through a screen. We're connected through energy, and that's and it's the same for everything else. And the rest of the universe is just a wider aspect of our body. And when you realize that the whole system is one, you can understand why your observation of something is changing it, because it's part of you, sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So does that run into fractals and Mandelbrot sets and all that? What do you know about that with relation to what you've just said?
Well, it's if you take a fragment of something, say a fern is a good example. If you look at the structure of a fern, you can see the whole fern as the plant. But if you look at one of the fronds on that fern, it's an exact replica of the whole plant. And then if you look at one of the kind of leaves coming off that fronds, that's an exact replica of the whole plant and of the frond. And it's the same for things like nautilus shells. You'll see that there are chambers in the spiral, and there is fractal form. So basically, nature has a way of nature is a fractal form of the whole of source, and it just shows in energy forms through sacred geometry, those fractals. And an example of that is also snowflakes. You'll see each kind of arm of a snowflake is the same as another arm of a snowflake. So nature creates these fractals. If you think of the ocean, it's got waves, hasn't it? But if you look at the top of one of those big waves, you'll notice that there's smaller waves on it. And then if you looked at those closer, there'll be smaller waves on that. In the same way, we are fractal holograms of source. So we are a fractal of the whole of God, or whole of source. We're seeing the whole universe through that one fractal human perspective, or lens, if you like, and we interpret the physicality of the reality through our senses. So depending on your kind of level of awareness or experience will depend on what your physical reality will present to you. That's why the universe just basically matches the frequency that you're putting out. So everything's interlinked, and we are a fractal of the whole universe or source, if you like. And that works through just the sacred geometry of energies.
Okay, cool. That's a good answer. Thank you. We're almost there. How do I levitate? How can
Oh,
I fly? I want to fly.
I don't know about that one. You've it's really tricky actually. You've got to do years and years and years of types of meditation and certain techniques to levitate. So, oh.
So how did they make the pyramids then? My last question.
Well, that was the Federation, and many star races were coming together. It's like Atlantis. There were colonies on Earth. If you notice, there are pyramids all around the Earth. And pyramids. Have you seen a Van de Graaff generator? It's like
Yes,
one
you
of those
mentioned that
two balls
last
that
video. Yeah.
creates. Yeah. So pyramids basically were built on the Earth so that they could harvest the natural energy of the Earth, and then pump out that into scalar waves into the atmosphere, and then that could be used as free energy or teleportation.
Was that for their benefit?
Yeah, I mean this planet used to be a multi-star race colony. You've got Atlantis, which had colonies all around the globe, and they all shared that technology. Interestingly enough, you're getting things like in Indonesia and Mexico sharing the same architectural template for a pyramid. You've got things like Teotihuacan in Mexico, which is the same footprint as the pyramids in Giza. So it was all one shared culture, effectively, and that was a stellar culture, star culture. But that there were some wars, and a lot of that technology has been destroyed, and then the regressive Federation aspect took over Earth about 27,500 years ago, and
Okay.
we're still under their occupation, but we're kicking them out now.
When was the pyramids built, roughly? Well, I suppose it wasn't all built at the same time, was it? Because the Sphinx is older, isn't it?
It was a lot longer. It was over 20,000 years ago, and before the pharaonic dynasties, if you like. So, I mean, for example,
Was that, do you say pharaonic or moronic, or is that the same thing?
pharaonic.
What's
The
that?
pharaohs before the pharaohs.
Oh, sorry, pharaonic, right?
Yeah. For example, you've got things like Tutankhamun. You've got his dagger is made of meteoritic stone that couldn't a metal that couldn't be that's not found on Earth. So there's an example of how those cultures in those times were more influenced by star family because they had more of that knowledge about the Federation having various bases on Earth and stuff. So,
Didn't he have an elongated head as well?
Yeah, he did.
That's kind of a bit of a giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah, part of the
head.
Homo capensis lot as well.
So what was that? That's an obvious? Is that an alien type thing or just a?
Yeah, Homo capensis looks like a human, but they've got an extended head end, and they come in slightly various different shapes. They were here. You get a lot of those in Peru as mummies and things like the Paracas skulls and stuff like that. And they've got a different fontanum magnum at the back, which is the hole where the neck comes in, completely different to us humans. And they also have two platelets rather than three that form our plates. I can't remember the technical name.
Any woman that, if it was a hybrid, would struggle and probably
Well,
die.
no, because they shared DNA, so there was a lot of crossbreeding and hybridization.
Right. And the brain would be much bigger. They'd have more ability to cognitive ability, but also spiritual.
Their bones were thicker. They had stronger, bigger, thicker jaws. They a slightly different species to humanity, but they shared a lot of common DNA. That's why a lot of people kind of misconceive what star family are. They think that they're going to be completely different to humans, but actually DNA is shared in a lot of alien races and stuff like that. And so you do get slight variants. You get the giants, you get other beings who look human, but they diverted off the I wouldn't say evolutionary. They've developed consciously a slightly different genetics, but they share a common 90% human DNA. But it's because we are seeded, so we actually come from the same kind of spawning grounds, which is and the universe creates all life in sort of types of DNA code, really.
And
So
there is a natural, obviously, a natural, the whole species of origin of species, Darwin, and that is to some extent a system, isn't it, of survival of the
that's
fittest.
completely wrong.
Oh
That's
yeah,
completely.
okay, yeah. Oh, that's what I've
He
been.
was a Freemason, and he wanted to do that to put people off the trail, which was getting very popular at the time with sacred geometry and magnetism, electromagnetism,
So
which worked for a while.
so when you can look at all the plants that then get like a plant gets eaten by a new type of um caterpillar, it then creates fake caterpillar eggs, for example, to get rid of the butterfly from laying it. Then those eggs create over time. Is that not a thing though?
No, it's
Well, I
all
look at my dog.
everything is based on consciousness. So
Right.
if a being is say in an environment, and then that environment slightly changes, it will, or if it finds a way of an advantage, it consciously will change its DNA to suit that benefit or that change. The trouble is, with origin of the species and stuff, it's saying, if over time various species have gone into various other different kind of environments and then adapted to that, but that's not true. If you took, say, a dolphin and put it, in a pond, it would die because it wouldn't be able to adapt. And if you did that over, say, 30 years, 40, 50, 100 years, it would still die because it consciously is not wanting to adapt to that new environment. And it would be a shock, to the system because you're taking it out of its natural environment that it's consciously decided to be
There's
in.
plenty of examples of that. They're called sea life centers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Basically. That's so sad. Some of those stories of, I mean, whales are such, whales especially, but dolphins too. They're such amazing creatures. I mean, I've like dogs. Dogs are the same. Here he comes on command.
If you
Um,
look at
so loving and
octopus, they've got a whole
oh,
different
and octopus,
set of,
octopile.
set of genetics. They're actually alien species as
Yeah,
well.
you'd
So
never
if you
have
look at
guessed, would you?
their gene code, that's why there's a kind of thing going on where the aggressive species are fighting the positive light species, and they're using biology in some ways to seed their own life on different planets. And then it's a kind of tussle between what creature could kill another creature and so there's a lot of that stuff going on that we don't even not even aware of on the subtler level
I
as
watched the
well.
Octopus Teacher. I don't trust a lot of Netflix stuff at all because they flip it and it's just I don't know, ulterior motives to a lot of the stories. But that was actually quite nice. Nice. They were nice watching the octopus because I've been to Octopus Farm, being I was a fish farmer, and it's not nice, But they're so curious. They're so sweet, They come up and go,
Yeah, they're more intelligent than dogs in some in
yeah.
some regards.
I think a
So
lot more actually in some respects in terms of well ability to actually use tools and stuff like that, and things. So yeah,
every being is conscious. It's just if we don't see it as like human consciousness, we say it's not clever or not intelligent.
yeah.
But there's so much intelligence in even the smallest of life forms as well.
It's
I've
like
just
saying,
seen a wonderful video of a load of dolphins circling basically a whale having a calf, protecting it from sharks,
mm,
that wanted to take the calf and stuff. So, a lot of nature helps other nature out, that was seeded here by the positive beings. So there's a lot of collaboration between nature as well.
that excludes wasps, doesn't it?
Well,
That's what Tim
every,
Mulder always goes on about.
every yeah, I mean, everything's got its place, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure wasps have got to use somewhere along the line.
Oh, they have certainly.
Mm.
I never get stung by wasps because I don't hold the frequency of fear around them.
Yeah.
I had one down my shirt once. So I don't blame it. It was stuck. But they kill tons of.
Well,
From
I've
a
been
human
stung by a
point of
wasp
view,
and a bee, so
yeah, I don't care.
yeah,
They kill tons of other flies, and they also pollinate. So from a
yeah.
human point of view, that's great. I had a devout Christian saying they're no good for anything, so I looked into it.
All life is sacred,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
everything, even the nefarious and harmful stuff. It's all divine and sacred.
Like the red ants or army ants or whatever they're called, the ones that just destroy everything. Um, Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, actually, lastly, do you know anything about the Guanchins in Tenerife? Because they fascinate me.
The Guanchins,
Yeah,
I
they're
don't
like
know that.
they were a tall, pale species that were in Tenerife. Well, the all around that area, like Gran Canaria and that. And the conquistadors came in, basically murdered them all and put them into slavery eventually.
Oh, okay.
If you don't know anything, it doesn't matter. I was going to ask
No,
about
I mean
because
they've
there's
just
a
discovered.
pyramid on Tenerife. There was
Oh,
one.
right. They've just
So,
discovered the like a Homo florensis, which is the small people, like dwarfs you'd call them. They've just discovered a colony of those in Thailand.
oh, right.
So we'll be finding lots more variation coming out soon.
Isn't that fascinating that there are still cultures and villages and even potentially even cities somewhere that I've never seen. They're just completely, and that's beautiful
Yeah.
because we can look at that and go, aha, maybe not long ago, that's what it was like, you know. So yeah, it's nice that there's things to be found, especially in the oceans.
Oh, there's going to be some amazing stuff coming out soon. Earth is a wonderful home for all sorts of life forms in all sorts of different ecosystems, and I love that about that variety about the Earth, and we need that.
Yeah,
And the more we find out about that, the more we find out about ourselves and where we are in the cosmos as well.
cool. Well, that concludes our session. Thank you, Matt.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask if anyone's watched this video, if you'd comment below, all three of you. I'm sure we get more than that. Comment below and any questions you've got, and we'll ask on at some point in the future. I'm going to keep adding to it on my whiteboard.
You're
Uh,
going to have a better hat next time, though.
no, yeah, it's work in progress. So I'll get the mullet going. I was thinking of actually putting a crop circle motif on the back.
Oh,
So I've just come up with another idea.
I look forward to that.
Drink holder here. I know with the one with the little.
You could have like a little radar going
Yes, yeah.
like that.
Radar. Don't know what else. I think it's all right actually so far. It's pretty cool. So I'll be a millionaire this time next year. Not that that's that much money anymore, but anyway, lovely. Thank you so much for spending time with
Debbie,
me, Matthew.
I
And
really appreciated
I'll
that.
I'm going to catch up with you soon anyway at some
Yeah.
point. Don't know when, but it will happen. So yeah. Cheers. Thanks,
All
Matt.
right.
Have a lovely afternoon.
Cheers, you too. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.